Butler, and I am the Scholarly Communication Librarian and the Administrator of UO Research. With me today, we have Nathalie Leonard, who's a Research Librarian in Law, and Jolene Urtubise, who's the Student Success Librarian. And we will each be covering the process of submitting your thesis to UO Research. We're pleased to have so many of you today. To help us manage the session, we've disabled video and audio, or I don't know if we have actually. Have we disabled video and audio? Perhaps we'll just remind everyone to mute your microphones and turn off your video. We have made the chat feature available for you as to add any questions as we move through, but we will be taking questions at the end of the session. But nevertheless, feel free to pop them in as we go along today. A live transcript of the session is enabled, and the workshop will be recorded and will be made available on the library's YouTube page. We will be sharing a survey toward the end. To receive the recording and the slides, we ask that you provide your email at the end of the survey, and Jolene will add that in the chat there. So we thank you for joining us today. We hope you find the session useful, and I'm going to turn things over to Jolene to get us started.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I will just share my screen and get everything set up here. So thank you so much for joining us all here today. As Leanne mentioned, we will be talking about the submission process in UO Research for your thesis. So by the end of today's session, you'll be able to understand the main steps of the thesis submission process to UO Research, create a thesis file that meets those requirements, and most importantly, know where to turn for additional help. Today's session will be split into 4 main sections where we will discuss an overview of the post-defense thesis process, how to prepare your thesis file, how to submit your thesis in UO Research, and how to monitor that submission. So first, we're just going to start off with a little question here today, a little poll. So feel free to place your answers in the chat. What percentage of theses are returned to students the first time they submit it to UO Research? You think it's A, 30%, B, 50%, C, 70%, or D, 80%? And I'll leave just a few seconds here for you to put your guess in the chat. I'd say that the answers in the chat are actually pretty spread out between all of the options. So the answer is actually D. 80% of students have their theses returned and must make changes to their file before their submission is approved. So that's why we're having this session here today, to hopefully help you with that process a little bit. So that way you'll be part of the 20% and not part of that 80%. So we're going to get started with just a quick overview of that post-defense thesis process. And this is just to give you a better idea of what to expect as you enter into this process. So thesis submission doesn't start until you've successfully defended your thesis. So congratulations on your successful thesis defense. After successfully defending, you'll have 30 days to submit your thesis. The library will then review the submission to ensure that it meets all of the requirements. If you're one of the 80% of students, you will receive an email from UO Research, from the UO Research team, that details all of the necessary corrections. You'll then make those corrections and then replace the submission file with the updated version. This may occur more than once depending on your specific circumstance. Once you've met all requirements, you'll have a successful submission and you will receive a permanent link to your thesis. Our hopes today is to make this process even simpler and easier for you. After today's session, you'll have a better understanding of the thesis submission requirements and will be able to ensure you meet them prior to submission. So hopefully after today, your process will look something more like this. You'll still have to submit your thesis within 30 days of your defense, and the library will review your submission to ensure all requirements are met. However, since you've accounted for these requirements, you will go straight to a successful submission. So the three key things that we want to focus on today to make sure that this process is as easy as possible for you is how to prepare your thesis file following file requirements, document accessibility, and copyright, how to actually submit your thesis, and then how to monitor the state of your submission after you have submitted it. So we will jump right into actually preparing your thesis. So first, why is formatting so important? There are a variety of different reasons why these requirements are in place, including best practices, university policies, etc. But in addition to that, they are very important for the Library and Archive Canada Thesis Canada program. It's with this program that Library and Archive Canada collects and preserves theses from participating universities, and this really helps to ensure the long-term preservation and discoverability of these theses. This program captures and collects theses through an automatic process, and for this process to work correctly, it uses the formatting and naming requirements that we will be presenting here today. So if these requirements are not met, your thesis may not be captured and preserved. I'll also mention that you can view examples of other theses from your faculty or department by looking in the UO Research Thesis Collection. So let's jump right into the specific file requirements that you are required to meet. So the first thing we'll be looking at is the title page. Your thesis starts with the title page, and there are certain requirements for its appearance and content. Here on the right, we can see an example of a correctly formatted thesis title page. It contains the traditional elements like title, author name, faculty, department, copyright, etc. You can also download a formatted title page template if you are interested. So it is found on the UO Research website, which Leanne will be showing you later today. But we also have it linked on this slide, which you can have access to after today's session if you are interested. There are two things that I'd like to point out specifically. First, the name on your title page must be your full name as it appears in UO Campus. So if you wish to change how your name appears, you must first contact the registrar through InfoService. Secondly, you must include a copyright statement indicating the year of your online submission to UO Research. Next, we will look at pagination. The first thing I'll mention is that your thesis file should not have any blank pages in it. So we just saw a correctly formatted title page. Your title page does count as a page. However, as you may have noticed, there is no page number listed on the actual title page itself. Your page numbers will begin on the second page of your document with the abstract as a Roman numeral 2. You will then continue on each of the following pages, acknowledgements, table of contents, etc., with consecutive Roman numerals. Once you reach the first page of your first chapter, you will switch to Arabic numbers. The first page of your first chapter will appear as 1, and you will continue on each of the following pages with consecutive Arabic numbers. Lastly, make sure that you update your table of contents to accurately reflect both the Roman numerals and the Arabic numbers. Next is the file format itself. When you submit your thesis, it should be submitted as a single PDF document. We highly recommend that you convert and submit your document in the PDF-A format, if at all possible, as this will help with long-term preservation and accessibility. We will be going through how to convert your document to PDF-A in Natalie's section here today. You can include supplementary files during the file upload stage of the submission process. So these would include any additional files that support your thesis, like multimedia files or data sets, and these can be uploaded in other formats. Next, we have the file name. So there is a specific file naming convention that must be followed for your PDF file. As we mentioned, this is a really important part for that Library and Archives Canada program. It should appear as last name underscore first name underscore year underscore thesis dot PDF. Again, your thesis file name must include your full name as it appears in UO Campus. So if you wish to change how it appears, you must contact the registrar through InfoService. There are certain characters that cannot be included in your file name. So you cannot include diacritics, punctuations, apostrophes, or any symbols other than that underscore that's required. If your name includes any of these characters, you must remove them from the file name. They can be included in your name on the title page. It's really just that file name that they cannot appear in. Lastly, the year should be the year of your online submission to UO Research. And so here's an example of a file name. So we would have Hatheril underscore Jeanette underscore Ann underscore 2021 underscore thesis dot PDF. The last thing that I'll mention to you quickly today is related to the presence of personal information. Once your thesis submission is accepted, it will be freely available online through both UO Research and the Library and Archives Canada program. And as a result, we want to make sure that you're not sharing any personal information with the public. To protect your privacy and the privacy of others, do not include any personal information in your thesis file. So please remove any signatures. Sometimes there are signatures in forms, in the appendices, etc., and all those signatures should be removed. Student numbers, any personal phone numbers, or personal email addresses. And these include your student email address or at UOttawa or those of your fellow students, and any mailing addresses. This does not apply to the business or professional contact information of professors, etc., only to the actual personal information. And so that is it for me today. And now I'm happy to pass it over to Natalie, who will provide further guidance on accessibility and copyright.
Thank you, Jolene. So allow me for the next few minutes to talk to you about accessibility and to show you how easy it is to create a Word document that is accessible to readers with a variety of disabilities. So let me share my screen right now. And let me just open it here. And here we go. So what, oh, maybe not, no, let me just, sorry, here we go. Slideshow, here we go, perfect. So why should we make documents accessible? So as more and more documents are available online, it becomes more and more important than to make them accessible to as many people as possible. So for me, accessibility means that all people can perceive, understand, navigate, and interact with electronic information. For example, many people with visual impairments use screen readers that read aloud information displayed on the screen, such as text or image descriptions, provided through alternative text. An accessible Word document means that it is formatted so that assistive technologies can accurately translate the information to the user, so it's accessible and readable to everyone. Last thing, it means that it's an easier document to edit, to navigate, and can be used in different ways by the larger range of users. Also in 2005, the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act 2005 came into force. So it means that now it is the responsibility of the university community to make all content available on its websites, including electronic documents, like the ones found on UO Research, in accessible format. So for all of those reasons, if you plan, format, and structure your document properly from the start, you will ensure the file is not only accessible, but can also be converted into a variety of alternative formats like PDF, Braille, and it will retain its accessible feature. So how can we create an accessible Word document? So the first step, of course, will be to incorporate some accessibility features in your document. But there's so many of them that I will focus on just a few of them today, on the ones that we consider the best practices to follow. So the first feature you should consider is using built-in headings and styles for titles and subtitles of each section of your document, as well as formatting tools like bulleted list. So the styles means heading levels that are part of those styles serve as a structural and navigational guide for the content of the document. It will convenience the informational hierarchy and connections among the various sections of your document. Someone using a screen reader can then easily navigate through your document. Those styles should be also applied to paragraphs. So when possible, again, it will make the reader understand that your text is not at the end of it, but you must avoid blank lines also and use the spacing feature appropriately. We'll go through that in a few minutes. Another feature you should consider is adding alternative text for any visual content that you have in your document. So when you're browsing on the internet and you put your cursor on an image, text often appears. This is the alternative text. So if you do add alternative text, it will help the screen reader software to read a description of your visual. It helps people who can't see the screen to understand what's important in the image or other visual that you have. Another feature, font and spacing. So you should consider font type, size, spacing, alignment. So you should use simple, familiar, and legible fonts. So the best practices are saying we should recommend, it recommends to use font between 11 and 14 points in size for body text. So size 12 is good. You should avoid decorative fonts like Cambria, but use more fonts with sufficient spacing between letters, like Verdana, Times New Roman, Arial, Helvetica, or Calibri. Use adequate spacing to help to increase the text readability. So it makes it easier for dyslexic individuals to track the lines. Fonts should be large enough to be easy to read. Fonts that are too small or too decorative may not be readable by some users. Avoid using italics as it can make text harder to read. And use left-aligned text when possible, because justified texts are more difficult to read because of the extra space between words. Another feature you should consider is the use of the colors appropriately. So check for eye color contrast and use simple background to make sure your document has sufficient contrasts between the text and the background. So more people that can see the text and use the content. So think about colorblind users. It will help them to distinguish between the text and the shapes. Increasing color contrast makes viewing easier for those with visual impairments. So avoid light gray text on a white background, by example. Another feature to consider is the use of the accessibility checker. So running an accessibility checker will flag any issues that come up as you work on your documents so that you can resolve them as it comes and you will not make the same error more than once. Another feature that I would like to mention, it's not listed here, but I think it's important, is the use of meaningful hyperlink text. So screen readers can only read the text, no more. So the user will have no idea where the link will bring him to when he clicks on it. So using a complete URL address as the hyperlink text can be confusing when read by a screen reader, especially if it is lengthy. A common error is to use phrases like click here as the display text for hyperlinks, which does not include a description of where the link goes or its function. So it is recommended to use a natural phrase, a sentence, and make it a link that is more accessible, so it is more useful. So those are some features that you should consider when you would like to create an accessible document. Step number 2. So once you have incorporated those features in your document, you need to convert your document to an accessible PDF. So right here, we've put some links to resources that will help you to do that. Step number 3. So sometimes when you do convert your document to an accessible PDF, some accessible elements are removed for different reasons. So it's a good idea to do a final check on your PDF. And here again, we've put some links to resources that will help you to do that. Allow me to talk briefly about copyright compliances and how it affects the content included in your thesis. So while you own the copyright to your thesis, this ownership only applies to the content you created and for which you will own the copyright. But if you are reproducing third-party content, or if you have assigned copyright to a publisher, it is your responsibility to make sure you respect the Canadian copyright law and that you follow certain rules to ensure that you use the materials properly. So concretely, it means you need to obtain written permission from the copyright owner and maybe supply copies of these permissions upon request by the university. Wherever possible, try to use alternatives and exceptions to material under copyright. By example, use your own work. Public domains work that doesn't fall under copyright, or open content, which is free to use. Do remember that copyright applies not only to text, but to any standalone items such as image, photo, table, graph, diagram, figure, maps, etc., reproduced in your thesis. So if you are including articles that you have previously published or have been submitted for publication in your thesis, do not assume that you own the copyright to the final published version. You must also obtain written permissions from co-authors. So if a journal holds the copyright, you need to verify which version of the articles can be reproduced without permission from the journal. So most publishers will allow you to include the final draft version that has been peer-reviewed, but not yet the formatted one by the publisher. So to better understand what you're allowed to do, just go to the publisher's website to look for their policies or refer to your publishing agreement. I would also like to mention a Creative Commons license as they apply to your thesis. So it has become more and more common to make theses available openly under a Creative Commons license, but there is no obligation to do so. So a Creative Commons license is a simple and illegal way to give permission to others to use your work as long as they respect the condition of the license. So by doing so, you still own the copyright, but you're making it easier to others to build upon your research. So there are 6 different types of Creative Commons license, ranging from least restrictive, where reusers are free to share, expand upon, etc., if they credit you as the author, all the way to the most restrictive, where reusers are permitted to copy and share your work in unadapted form only for non-commercial purposes. So on the UO Research website, you will find more information about copyright and Creative Commons license. Allow me now to quit the PowerPoint presentation and to go to this Word document. You've seen the title page of it a few minutes ago. I just want to go through this document to show you some where you can find those accessibility feature that I mentioned earlier. So let's have a closer look to the document. So as you can see, it's a document that is well organized. So yes, we have a title page with all the relevant info that we talked about earlier. If we continue to scroll down, so you have an abstract. If we continue, you have an acknowledgements section, a table of contents, a list of tables, a list of figures, and finally, the beginning of the text of your thesis, starting with the mention of chapter 1. So earlier I was speaking about headings and paragraphs. So it is recommended to apply the feature called styles to them. So style means that you will use a group of formatting characteristics that have been put together, like the font, the size, the spacing, and those characteristics will be applied to the section of the text that you have selected. So here, if we do select chapter 1, we can see on the right that the Times New Roman has been selected, the font or the size 14, as well as, we don't see it, but if I do go at the top and I do click on home, so we see that the characteristic center has been chosen for this section, as well as heading 1. So heading 1 includes all of those accessibility feature, font, size, alignment. Okay. If I do continue and scroll down up to chapter number 2, and here we go. If I do the same thing, I do select chapter 2, click on home, and again, I see that heading 1 has been applied to chapter 2, Times New Roman 14, and the text has been centered. So that's heading number 1. If among a section or chapter, you do have other sections, like here in chapter 2, we have section abstract, introduction, methods. So this time, if I do click on abstract, click on home again, whoops, sorry. So now we see that heading 2 has been applied to it, meaning Times New Roman has been applied as font, 13 size, and justified text, aligned left. So that's what has been used for those subsection abstract introduction. So why talking about headings, why it is so important? So because if you're going to create a table of contents, those sections that have been identified as headings and styles have been applied to them will be used to create the table of contents. So as soon as you change the titles of the chapter and the different sections by working on your text, and if you have created an automatic table of contents, that table of contents, the content will be automatically updated, so or change. So that's why using that feature is important. Let's continue to scroll down. So as we can see, the information has been organized in small chunks. So that helps, again, the reader to better understand the structure of your document. Between paragraphs, it's not recommended to press several times the Enter key to create space, because screen readers will understand there is white space, and maybe the reader might think, oh, I'm missing some information, so there will be some confusion. So instead, I would suggest strongly to use, let's click on home again. Oh, doesn't want to do it. Oh, there we go. Use the paragraph feature to apply accessibility feature to it. So if you do see here at the top of the screen, the section for paragraph and the little arrow, if I click on it, here is what I can apply to my paragraph. So the alignment, of course, the indentation, So you can put more and before and after, and the spacing issue that you can play. And as soon as you do change some of those features, you can see at the bottom in the preview section how it's going to look like. Line spacing, you can use multiple, double, so you can see the effect on your text. And when you're satisfied, you click on OK, and this will be applied directly to your document. Another feature that I didn't mention is the accessibility checker. So once you're done with adding accessibility feature, you might want to make sure your document is fully accessible. How can we do that? Let me just click on home. So you need to, sorry. So again, home, this time to click on review, check accessibility. Oh, sorry. Check accessibility and check accessibility again. So now you see on the right a report that will explain to you, not explain, but make suggestions to improve some accessibility feature in your document. So in this case, I have nothing, so my document is fully accessible. Another feature that I didn't mention, if I do scroll down, let me just do that. I'm looking for an image. Here we go. So one feature that you should consider is if you have images in your text is to add alternative text to this image. How you can do that, if you right click on the image and you choose view all text, you see on the right a little box where you can add 1, 2 maximum short sentences that describe the image to someone who is blind or has low vision. So it will explain what the reader will see, where it's going to bring the reader specifically. So, and the last feature I would like to mention is, it's of course to save your document. So we mentioned that it is recommended to save your document as a PDF accessible format. So how we can do that? So if you do click on File at the top left corner, and you click on Save a Copy. So there we go. So instead of saving my document as a Word document here at the top, I'm going to click on the arrow, and I'm going to click on PDF. So now I do see this link at the bottom here, more options. So I'm going to click on more options. And on below, you have the options button again. So you click on it, and at the bottom of that section, PDF options, you must select PDF/A compliant, and you're saving your document as a PDF in a PDF accessible format. So we'll not do it right now, and here we go. So this is what I wanted to share with you today about accessibility, about copyright, and Creative Commons license. So let's talk now about the submission of your thesis to your research more in details. So over to you, Leanne.
Thank you. I'm just going to get my right screen here. There we go. Okay, so once you have properly formatted your thesis and made your document accessible, it's time to submit your actual thesis. Oh, hang on one second. I'm still trying to get things going. There we go. Students must, excuse me, students must submit their thesis to UO Research within 30 days of your defense. You will need approval from your academic unit to do this. So first you will, oh, hang on, my slides are, have a mind of their own. There we go. Okay, first you will log into UO Zone and submit your thesis for your thesis supervisor and academic unit's approval by using the service request approval of the final version of your thesis. At this time, you have the option to request an embargo on your thesis. The optional embargo provides a delay of the online access or publication to your thesis for a specified period of time. And that can be anywhere from 6 months, a year, 2 years, or a maximum of 5 years. You have the option to restrict the abstract from appearing online during this time. In order to delay access to your thesis, you will need to complete and sign an embargo request form and have this approved by both your supervisor and the department chair. And you will submit that form along with your thesis using the same service request above, approval of the final version of your thesis. It's important for you to wait to receive an email that you can submit your thesis to UO Research. This can be confusing because your supervisor may have approved the request, but your academic unit also needs to approve the service request. So there are really 2 steps to that final approval stage. Once your academic unit has approved the request, then you can proceed with the submission. So here we have a sample of the email that you will receive. Dear student, we're pleased to inform you that the service request regarding the submission of your revised and corrected thesis has now been approved by your thesis supervisor. This means that the version of your thesis submitted through the service request has been accepted for final submission to the University of Ottawa's digital repository UO Research. So please wait until you receive this email confirmation and be sure to prepare your thesis as we've shown you in the previous section. Otherwise, your thesis will be returned to you until all steps are complete. Once you have received the email, you can then go to UO Research and submit your thesis. So this is just a screenshot of what UO Research looks like. I'm just going to do a little switching here because I'm going to get hang on one second. I think it's easier if I stop sharing. I'm just going to get my other screen open. Okay, let's just reduce the noise a bit here. Okay, so this is a, and I just want to make sure, Natalie and Jolene, I'm sharing the right screen, right? This, you can see UO Research here. I was doing a little finagling there.
Yes,
I want to make sure.
We can submit your thesis.
Okay. Okay. Great. So here is the homepage to UO Research. The website is ruor.uottawa.ca. And I'm going to walk you through exactly how to submit. Before logging in, though, I would recommend that you select this button here, submit your thesis, and review the formatting guidelines. So this is the link that I shared in the chat that walks through exactly what you need to do to format your thesis to adhere to the requirements the library needs in order to publish your thesis in the repository. I do want to make it clear here that we do not verify guidelines according to citation. So if you, for your department, your discipline are following MLA formatting or APA, we do not check that. That is entirely up to you and your supervisor. The library does not review that specific, the specific citation. Rather, we just want to make sure that you have properly prepared your thesis to adhere to some guidelines set out by Library and Archives Canada. So that's specifically the title page, certain pagination, and a file format. And as we discussed earlier, even the naming convention of your file. And then adhering or, you know, the recommended accessibility here as well. So once you've gone through this and you're ready to submit your thesis, you can log in. So from the home page, you're going to log in at the top using your UO Access ID. So mine remembers me. I'm logged in here now. And then you're going to select the plus sign at the left navigation bar, select new and submission. You're not going to have as many options as you see on my screen here. You'll just have the submission option there. Select submission. You're going to search for the Thesis 2011 collection. Please do not submit to your department-specific collection. All theses must be deposited to this Thesis 2011 collection. You'll select that.
We can't see what you're presenting, what you're referring to.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're still seeing the general submit your thesis page.
Okay, let me stop sharing and then I'll reshare. Thank you for letting me know. Maybe there was just a delay or something. Can you see now? Is it a different page?
Yes.
Okay, let me start over then. So you're going to log in at the top. Hang on, let me go back here. So you log in at the top here. And then to create your submission, you select the plus sign from the left navigation bar and you go down to submission. And then you'll have a drop-down menu here. You'll select Thesis 2011. And again, please do not submit to your department-specific collection. There we go. And then you are taken to a page where you'll enter all the details for your thesis. So you'll enter your name. You will enter the title of your thesis. These are required fields. You'll enter your abstract and then some keywords. So you can enter as many keywords as you would like. You just select the plus sign here and you keep adding as many keywords to help in the discovery of your thesis once it's online. You will need to enter your supervisor's name, first and last name. If you have multiple supervisors, you can add more here. Then you will select faculty from the dropdown. So for today, I'm just going to select arts. The department is School of Information Studies, your degree level, and your degree name. So these are all options in the dropdown. Please enter the language of your thesis as well. And then here you're taken to the embargo option. So if you have an embargo on your thesis, you will select embargo and then enter the lift date. So the lift date is that period of time. So if it's a 1-year embargo, for example, I'm gonna enter today's date in 2025, and then the system will automatically release your thesis at that time. You're going to, oh, hang on one second here. You're going to then drag and drop your thesis. And if you have more than one file, so if you have accompanying data or images, you just can keep dragging and dropping there until you've added all the required files. Then you'll select a Creative Commons license. Do not select the CC0. This would render your work immediately into the public domain. Please, if you are selecting a Creative Commons, select Creative Commons. For the purposes of today, I'm going to choose a license that's as open as possible. So I'm going to allow commercial use and I'm going to allow others to modify my work. I'm going to grant the license. And then you are taken to the very last stage. All students, this particular license is a requirement. All students must submit or select that they are authorizing U Ottawa a non-exclusive license. So this allows indexing databases like Library and Archives Canada to harvest the material. So we would select I confirm. I'm going to do one last review from the top down. Everything looked good, so I'm going to deposit the thesis. And you'll have a little option here that shows you that the submission has been successfully deposited. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Just give me one second. I'm going to get my slides back up. There we go. Okay. So now you are in charge of monitoring your submission. If there are any corrections to be made, the library will contact you at your U Ottawa email address with details of the required corrections. You can make these corrections and then re-upload your thesis file. You do not need to create a new submission to resubmit a corrected thesis. Rather, log into your workspace in UO Research. You will remove the previous file and replace it with the corrected version. Once you've submitted the file with the corrections, you will receive an email from UO Research that it's been accepted, and you will receive a permanent URL. And then in 24 hours, you will receive a digital object identifier that will be assigned to your submission. And at this point, you are done. So congratulations, you've now successful deposited your thesis to UO Research. So we will share these slides with everyone at the end. There will be a survey in the chat that you can fill in if you want to enter your email address, and we will distribute the slides so you have access to these resources. But here you'll see that there's instructions for submitting your thesis. There's a link to the Copyright Office website with details around copyright considerations, link to a thesis handbook by the Office of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies, and then a link to our accessibility hub. So thank you all for attending today. I believe Jolene's going to add that link to the chat, and then we will begin the question and answer period. So Jolene will help moderate the questions, but before we get there, I just want to reiterate, because I think that this will help clear up several questions. And I did mention it in the presentation, the library does not review adherence to citation guides. So if you are following formatting requirements for your discipline, whether it's MLA, Chicago, or APA, the library does not verify that adherence to those guidelines. Rather, that's something that you will discuss with your thesis supervisor and your committee. So any formatting requirements that we require are on that page that I've linked to, and it's just really pagination, proper naming convention for your file, and ensuring that the title page adheres to our requirements. So I'll turn it over to Jolene to start with the questions.
Perfect. So there are